That's the thing when you start, like a patient
Building relationships with people
yeah,
too.
someone could come in for, I think she came in just for preventative. She wanted to just check her hormones. Where's my thyroid at? Where are my hormones at? You know, just optimize her health. So I'd met her at a festival. We did a Potrero Hill Festival. I did all these giveaways. So then one of the giveaways, she came in, became a really good patient.
Yeah.
So very end of her hour-long appointment, I said, do you get any UTIs or yeast infections? Like, how's all that? Oh yeah, I get chronic UTIs. I've been getting it for years. I was like, really? I was like, do you want to be married? Like, do you love your husband? And she's like, just blank stare. And sure enough, she was forced into a marriage. She was with someone that she loved, but then married this guy because on paper he looked good. The boyfriend before that, parents didn't like him. So it's manifested physically in these UTIs chronically for years. She has an affair, no UTI.
Interesting.
Allergic to sperm. That's a real thing. Women can definitely be allergic to sperm, but it's more of like less than it being physiologic.
Allergic to sperm?
But instead of it being more physiologic per se, your body and your mental state will start rejecting that person. When you reject that person, your body rejects that person too. So I always tell women, if you get chronic UTIs, obviously make sure you're drinking enough water. Obviously make sure you don't eat sugar all the time. Do
the basics. Cover the basics.
Things. Make sure you're not, your kidneys are functioning, all that jazz.
Yeah.
But underlying, if you're young and healthy and you keep getting reoccurrent and you didn't have, sexual trauma in the past, things like that, because that can also induce it.
Right.
Just check your relationship status.
That's so interesting. Because I believe in like that idea of just energy and the energy you put out and like manifesting stuff, like you said, right?
It is more than just the energy, though. I mean, literally, it's just like when you have stress in your life, the inflammatory response just starts cascading. Your hair starts falling out. Your hair starts graying. Your cortisol starts spiking. You start, gaining abdominal fat. So it really is physiologic as well. Yeah. So I'm not, as much as I'm, into, I don't know, naturopathic medicine, the whole vibe, energy, woo-woo medicine is like, it's not my bag.
It's not your bag.
It's not my bag.
But you just gave a great point, though.
But with physiologic elements backing it too. It's not just like, oh, you didn't like him, so you got a UTI. Like it's so much deeper than that.
Yeah.
Because it really is this like almost like a cytokine storm that's happening. Yeah. When you start having this kind of stress, or if you're lying to your spouse or things like that, that's gonna manifest physically. So I have another patient. Beautiful girl. But you look at her and you're just like, are you a doll? I mean, she's gorgeous. Yeah. She's got 2 boyfriends. Well, one's her husband. The other one's her boyfriend. She comes into me.
Can't have an entree without the side, as the great Fabulous once said. Yes.
Who said that?
Some rapper.
Oh, I was like, Donald Trump?
MAGA.
Yeah. So anyway, she has an SUV Ferrari. I mean, the girl, she looks like she's just got it all, right? Yeah. She comes in, she's just like down in the dumps, no energy. She's had reoccurrent Epstein-Barr for years. So I start treating her. She's like starting to feel a little bit better because then when patients don't come back, it's not because they don't like you or they don't enjoy the treatments. They're feeling good. So she starts feeling good. Then it would kind of come back. Her symptoms would all come back. And I say, I told you from the day you came in here, you've got a husband and you've got a boyfriend and you've got these 2 relationships. Your heart is literally being pulled. Yeah. What is that doing to you physically? What is that doing to you? I said, you've got to make a decision. You can't do it. Whenever you're on the fence with anything, it's going to tear you up. Yeah. So yeah, when you go to the doctor, like if you go to your allopathic physician, you're probably never going to have these conversations. But that's part of the whole healing process. If someone has recurrent Epstein-Barr, but they've got these chronic environmental factors that are contributing to the stress, contributing to the inflammatory markers, contributing to, their white blood cells chronically being elevated, things like that, then you have to get to a deeper level. Why am I not getting better? Why can I not, why do some people, their Epstein-Barr titers go down or it goes away, but then other people it's just constantly recurrent. So you have to look at that. And so that's what I do, is I just dig and dig and dig until I find, well, what could possibly be contributing that we're not hitting? What are we missing here? Kind of thing.
When you think of EBV, though, do you immediately think, I mean, there's obviously a lot of reasons, but do you think the gut is an issue? Is it usually stemming from like leaky gut, or do you start thinking, I don't know, heavy metals, or there's a whole array of things?
That's an interesting question. I don't know that I think by the time I get to see a patient and they're in their, I would say the bulk of my practice is people in their 30s and 40s. So they're like, these booming career people, they're in startup, they're entrepreneurs, they're just stoked about what they're doing. Yeah. So they've had EBV way
before.
earlier.
It's just dormant.
Yeah, it's just dormant.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like the herpes virus, just like any kind of other virus that stays in the ganglion of the nervous system. So you just want to keep that all dormant. When it comes reactivated, that's when it becomes problematic. So a lot of times it will be dormant for a long time, but then again, that stress, that high pressure. So does cortisol play a part? Probably. Do different bacteria feed off of cortisol? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's like, what came first, chicken or the egg kind of thing. I would say most people that live in the Bay Area, their guts are a wreck. Is this nationally? I don't know. It could be. I only see patients here. In Arizona, where I saw patients previously, I think there were a lot. Lyme disease was actually really prevalent there.
Really?
I'm not really sure why. So a lot of ozone
And isn't there a lot of EBV correlation with Lyme? That's what I thought.
I think the immune system gets weakened and it predisposes you. Lyme disease is also sexually transmitted, so there's that.
Really?
So that's
I never heard
something
that.
they don't really. Yeah. So if you have Lyme, or your wife, your spouse does, and they give birth, that oftentimes does get transferred to the baby. I've seen it happen many times.
Wow.
So there are more studies that have been coming out that it is sexually transmitted. Yeah.
Wow.
So do I think that they go hand in hand? Could be. I think I think what happens though with Epstein-Barr or with Lyme is these particular patients have felt crappy for so long that they just want to keep testing and keep testing and keep testing. Well, it's just like with Corvid. It's like if people test, I could have it right now. I'm not concerned about it because my immune system is strong enough where I may not manifest the symptoms. But if I felt like garbage and I just go through the, I check do I have hepatitis, do I have all these other latent, viruses or probably not bacterial, but if I have latent viruses, if I felt like trash, I'm going to check all these things. So it's kind of like comorbidity kind of thing, I think. So a lot of times these things are just present together.
Yeah.
It's because the whole system is just very weak. So in Chinese medicine, they call it your qi, your doshic makeup. If it's Ayurveda, all these things, you're just at a really low point, and then you're predisposed to all these other infections, these other pathologies, is what I think.
So it reminds me of my mentor, Stephen Cabral, who's a functional medicine doctor. He talks about the rain barrel, and when the rain barrel, you can only take in so much, and then when it starts to overflow, that's when you see the symptoms. So you don't know. You've probably had it all. The human body is amazing. It's able to, it's able to keep going with all this crap you're sending it. But you got the heavy metals, you got the stress at work, then you got the financial issues. Then it's your kid or something happens, and then finally the rain barrel overflows, and now you're like presenting EBV or whatever. That's the symptoms, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, I think as a naturopathic physician, I think the biggest difference is we get patients that they've been to their endocrinologist, they've been to their GI specialist, they've been to the allergist, they've been to the pulmonologist, they've been to all these doctors because it first started out as a little symptom. Because like you're talking about the rain barrel, your body will give you a little bit of a symptom. It says, okay, something's off. My shoulder hurts, or I'm starting to see a little bit blurry, or I woke up this morning, I just felt like crap, and I can't sleep at night. And your body does these little things. We ignore it. We just don't even listen.
Yep.
We don't listen. So then,
keep pushing.
After years of ignoring these symptoms, then you get these massive red flags. These sirens just start going off in your body, like, oh my, I really can't sleep. I only got 2 hours of sleep last night.
Yeah.
Well, then I had alcohol. Well, then I had, I went and had pasta that night. Well, then this perfect storm of the starch breakdown, of the leaky gut, of your body starting to react to the same molecules it sees over and over to the stress. It's a perfect storm. So we often get the patients that they've been to all these other doctors, they got put on medications. They're like, well, those medications didn't really help, and now I have numbness and tingling in my fingers, and now I have my stomach's always upset, or now I have rebound insomnia, things like that. So I think the biggest difference is just when it goes to treat the patient, what are you going to use? Are you going to dig? Are you going to look at the biohacking?
Yeah.
Are you going to look at their genetics? Are you going to look and see, what do they have going on? What are their predispositions? And then try and get a hold of those symptoms without medication, because that's only going to further, decrease their dosha. It's going to make them weaker.
Yep.
You don't want to make someone weak. You want to find that vital force. When you find that vital force, that's when they can actually heal. But you can't heal unless you have your vital force. So it's really important. Whether that's even just with basic hydrotherapy. I mean, I went to the sauna last night. Yeah. And I was really tired. I drank the night before. One thing leads to another. You have
Here
friends.
we go. How to hack a hangover. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, sort of. Yes. Yeah. So the biggest thing is, the word detox. I get asked this constantly,
So do I, and I can't stand it, by the way. Continue. I can't wait to hear what you're going to say.
So detox should be a part of your daily, almost your hourly life. Like right now, I've had probably 2 full lemons. I've had 90 ounces of water. That's detoxing right there. Detoxing needs to be a part of your everyday life. It's not like, I did a 5-day liver cleanse and now I'm detoxed. Right. It really has to be a lifestyle. So I drank, go to the sauna. I'm in the sauna. I do an hour-long session. So I do typically about 30 minutes of hot, 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 just sweat as much as I can.
Is this dry sauna or infrared?
I did dry sauna. You can do, it doesn't really matter whatever you have access to. I think it's difficult in the Bay Area to find a lot of different sauna therapies that you can do regularly. A lot of people can't afford, that stuff, so you just kind of do whatever works for you. So even if you do it in the shower and you just have the water cranked up and you start to get sweating, and then you do that shift to the ice cold water.
Yeah.
That's what I do. So I do the hot, make sure I'm really sweating for a good at least 30 minutes, do cold shower, go back to sauna, always end on cold. But even just doing that can stimulate that vital force. So that's where that all came from. But does it help a hangover? I don't know. I think prophylactically there's things to do. I think if your body first of all, if you get a hangover, maybe you should stop drinking. Maybe you should figure out.
Well, what about too, like, dry farm wines? You got all these with the glyphosate, right, and all these pesticides in the wine. Like you hear that guy, the guy who created dry farm wines. Have you heard of them? They're just like a better quality wine that's supposed to.
I know I drink really, really good wine.
Yeah.
Like the other night, I opened something from Gerard Winery. I had 3 glasses. I was translating poetry. I write a lot. I'm really into philosophy. So I read and I write a ton.
Yeah.
So I'm just one thing leads to another. I'm dancing. I've got music, and then I go back to writing, and then I'm dancing and doing all this stuff, right? And like 3 glasses in, I'm just like, I felt really nice. I woke up the next morning. I think I got 5.5 hours of sleep straight through, maybe 6. I felt amazing the next morning. So do the wines have a lot of garbage in them? Yeah, a lot of them do, but it has to do with, what are they putting on the grapes? What's in the soil? Right. What's the aging process like? What are the chemicals they're adding in? So I think that if you buy something that costs $13, you're probably going to feel like garbage the next day.
Yeah, 100%.
So there's something to that. I don't know the mechanisms, in wine growing. I've been to enough wineries. I've listened to them, but I think sometimes I tune out a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's a lot I don't know in that arena. I have a level 3 Somm friend of mine.
Oh my God.
Level
3, is that good?
There's only 174 in the world. It's very good. Yeah.
Okay.
When I found that out, I thought he is as smart, if not smarter than me. It's like he went to medicine. He went to medical school for culinary. So we went to Murad. Go Murad. Murad watches this. Amazing restaurant. Murad's a Michelin star restaurant it's on Montgomery Street. Yeah. So I'm with him at Murad, and they told him the altitude and whether it was a New World or Old World grape, and he knew what it was. It was a Reposani from Greece. But anyway, wine was amazing, and I should know a lot more about the process, but I don't. I know that when you find something that's good, you stick with that. If it does have a lot of sulfites in it and you're sensitive to those, obviously, again, with genetic testing, that can be really, really helpful. Look at your detoxification pathways, not just the word detox, but look at your actual genetics. Is your pathway blocked? Do you have a lot of stagnation in your liver?
How would someone know if their pathway is blocked? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so basically through 23andMe is amazing, and I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about 23andMe just because that data can be,
used
sold and whatever. But to me, when I did that test and I saw that I had a double mutation on my vitamin D receptors, I had a double mutation on my estrogen receptors, I had high glutamate, so I'm already like very, very high energy. I don't know if you've gotten that from me, but like I'm kind of the Energizer Bunny. Well, I just thought, I'm just the Energizer Bunny. That's just who I am, and da-da-da. Well, there's a reason why. It's not just willy-nilly. That's my personality, and this is your personality. You're more calm.
Sure.
So it's actually a genetic mutation where my body can't convert the glutamate, which is the excitatory neurotransmitter.
So someone like you needs more GABA or L-theanine.
Exactly. So I don't convert to GABA as much. So there's certain things. I don't necessarily supplement for that, but I know it's going to further exacerbate that glutamate reaction. So if I have a lot of caffeine, if my cortisol is constantly high, that's just going to keep making me this like crazy person.
Right.
So I have to be very cognizant of sugar intake, things like that. So take it a step further. So you have your 23andMe genetic testing that you can do. Then there's raw data, and I believe that 23andMe used to own NutriHacker, same with Genetic Genie.
Yeah.
So Genetic Genie is okay. It gives you a little
information.
information.
I did that in the past, a long time ago.
Genetic Genie?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it gives you a compartmentalized, very brief overview. But if you want to get very detailed into, like I said, the detoxification pathway, what's going through your neurotransmitters, what's going on in your GI tract, what's going on with your vitamin D, all your hormone receptors, all that stuff, it's very, very best, I think it was like $60 I've ever spent in my life, was when I put that raw data into NutriHacker and I found that out. So I had dysplastic cells on my abdomen that were detected when I was in medical school. And I thought, well, I grew up in the pool and I was always really tan. And I was like, why in the world would I have this? I get so much vitamin D. Well, all that time, even though I'm absorbing it, but I'm not converting it to the active form of vitamin D, which is protective for the bones. It's a precursor for hormones, helps with immune function, things like that. So all that time I thought I had this great immune system because of my vitamin D levels being high. I was never absorbing it, but it was never converting. So that was huge. So when I found that out, now I supplement. I give myself, the active form of D3, compounded from pharmacy. I inject it into my upper outer glute twice a month, and I don't have to worry about it.
You inject it too?
I inject it because I don't like taking supplements. I'm not good at it. It bothers me. Absorption's an issue, especially for vitamin D. So as it being a fat-soluble molecule, if you don't have it with food, you're not going to absorb it as well anyway, so it's just easier for me to just do an IM injection. So
anything else like that you'll inject, or because you just feel like it's just not going to be absorbed correctly, or...
The vitamin D is the biggest thing. Fish oil, you don't inject fish oil. So there's certain ones that I do take. So fish oil I take religiously. Probiotic I take every night before bed.
What probiotic do you take?
I take Claire Therabiotic. I don't know if you're familiar with Claire.
No.
Claire's it's a nutraceutical, pharmaceutical grade product. It's very, very good. So I think it's 25 billion, but I like the strains. So there's certain strains in it that will basically help to support the small intestine versus the large intestine. So that's really important because a lot of the probiotics out there don't have the diversification of the strains. And it's very important to switch up your probiotics too. So I do switch. So there's another company, Enzyme Science, I believe it is. I think Enzyme Science is what I use. So I just try to rotate them often just to make sure you get the different strains. And you can look at those through Genova stool testing as well. So Genova stool testing will really help you look into the microbiome. I don't know if you're familiar with Genova, but
I've heard of Genova, but for people that don't know, talk about Genova. They do like stool labs, right? Like the 3-day stool labs where you can get parasites. They picks up on stuff like that. What else? And then I'm assuming this is like an organic acids test that Genova does, or more in depth.
They don't do organic acid testing. They do. I'll tell you the tests that they do, and I run them at least, I'd say probably 5 per week for patients. Even though I mostly do procedures here in practice, but it seems like even if someone comes in and they've got they think they want to come in for bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, well, if I find out based on some of their symptoms they're constipated, whatever, well that's probably it has to do with their thyroid or it has to do with their other hormone levels. So we end up checking everything. But if the gut's a wreck, you're not absorbing various medications and things like that. So you end up running these tests more frequently than one would think. So someone comes in for migraines, and next thing we know, we're doing a stool test. But here's I guess one of the biggest differences of allopathic medicine again is, and then maybe I can segue into what brought me into this medicine. Basically, when you go to an allopathic, let's say a GI specialist, and you've got Crohn's disease, or he wants to give you some diagnosis. That's what MDs love to give you a diagnosis.
Yep.
I just had a patient here. She's obsessed with the idea that she has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS. And she's I think she mentioned EDS probably 12 times in our visit. And I said, all right, I'm going to need you to disassociate yourself from that diagnosis because you are not your diagnosis.
I love this. Yes.
And it's really important to understand that even if you do have that, even if you do have fibromyalgia, which in Europe they call it mitochondrial dysfunction because that's actually what it is.
Yeah.
But even if you get a diagnosis, so what? What are you going to do with that? What are you going to take? Flexerol? Are you going to take, some sort of immune suppressant? What are you going to do with that diagnosis? Who the fuck cares?
Right.
And you can take that out. Sorry.
No,
but
keep it in.
It makes me so.
Don't take it out.
It makes me so angry. One of my mentors in medical school gave me a story. He said they had 2 patients with MS. One patient basically didn't have any symptoms from her MS after working with her. She had a great attitude. She was like, I don't even know what this is, how I got this, but brought her vitamin D levels up, addressed the micronutrient issues that were going on, certain things, some other supplementation. The other one didn't get better, and her symptoms just kept worsening. He goes out in the parking lot and sees her drive away, and on her license plate it said, I am MS.
Holy shit, wow.
So when you manifest that diagnosis, that obviously creates a block in your healing process. So you can call it, crazy woo-woo medicine all you want to,
right.
But either way, there is a mindset. They call it... They call it the ability to override. So your heart may feel a certain way. You may feel a certain way about a relationship, about a job, about something. But the will to override. But that's where the mind comes into play. So that's really, really important. So anyway, back to the differentiation. So let's say somebody has chronic gut issues. They go see the gastroenterologist and they say, well, you have IBS.
Right.
Well, what are you going to do with that?
IBS is just so blanket too.
Chronic diarrhea and chronic constipation for the rest of my life. And that's just what I do.
Yeah.
I'm just going to poop my pants when I'm out. I'm just going to not
Here's a
poop
diaper.
for 4 days.
Yeah.
And then they're going to give you, they're going to give you a prescription to help the motility process through the GI tract, or they're going to give you something to bulk up your stools. So that's what they're going to do. But instead of getting, and then they'll send you with a stool test as well, and then they'll give you a little pill that you swallow just to see, what's going on with the intestines, things like that. Well, that's all great. I mean,
sure.
Diagnostics
take that data,
the
right?
allopathic world are amazing. I can't do that here in office. Some of my I have to send people out for those diagnostics. But it's then when you've got the results from these tests, then what do you do with it? Do you just send them on their way, give them a script, and say, okay, well, you've got IBS, you've got Crohn's, you've got colitis, like that's it,
Yeah.
And so I guess with the stool test that they typically give, it's called an O&P times 3. It's oviparasite. So there's kind of checking, make sure you don't have Giardia. If you went to Mexico, make sure you don't have any latent parasite. If you had sushi or something like that. But 9 times out of 10, that O&P, I just said the O and parasite, and then I was like, the O and the P shot.
You're thinking of the O. I knew what you were thinking of.
I get so excited.
It's the glutamate.
We can talk about that later. So anyway, the difference between the Genova testing is that it looks at everything. So it's going to show if you have inflammation. It's going to show if you have fecal fat. So if you have fat in your stools or cholesterol in your stool, there's a reason for it. Is your pancreas functioning? Is your gallbladder functioning? And then you can also look at the different strains in your gut. Is there an overgrowth of bad bacteria? Is there an overgrowth of good bacteria? Do you have small intestinal bowel overgrowth? So there's all these things. If you do have SIBO, do you want to take antibiotics, or would you rather use, neem oil or Oliveira or biocidin? There's all these natural herbs that can kill these things off, and there's very strict protocols that are just as strong. The studies and the data shows that it's just as effective as if you were to take antibiotics. Plus, it's not eradicating all your good strains as well. So Genova testing is very, very, very insightful because it looks, and Genova should pay me for this, to be quite honest.
Yeah, they should. Or a little royalty.
Give me a free
affiliate
test.
fee.
Just give me a free test. I need to look at my stool. So anyway, it's the amount and the comparison of data that you get from a Genova stool test to look at your microbiome to see if you have potentially leaky gut, to see if you have your IgA, which is your immunoglobulin for your mucous membrane, so the GI tract, the lining of the vaginal canal, all these kinds of things. If that IgA is really elevated, well, that's going to give us insight into, okay, what's really going on? What's your immune response? Should we then do an IgG test on other things? Should we look and see if you have candida present? So this is the kind of stuff that if you did have candida, they're going to give you fluconazole, and then that antifungal is going to affect the rest of the gut bacteria. So we don't want cascade effects to happen. You don't want to constantly be cleaning up the damage from the damage that was done, and then it just becomes a cycle. So it's really important to support, like I said, find the vital force, find what's lacking in the patient, find the root cause, and then address it from there. So
I love this. You, Dr. Jillain Shannon, you are speaking my language. And by the way, we never even introduced you. So let me just start off by doing that. Hey, it's Joel from The Hack Life. I'm here with Dr. Jillain Shannon from SF Natural Medicine in San Francisco, California. Talk to me how you even got into functional medicine. How did that come about? What was your calling?
I don't think I'll get emotional today, but it's funny because I was at the sauna last night with a girlfriend, and she asked me, there's something about, segue again, and then I'll come back to it.
Yes.
So there's something about hydrotherapy that when you're in extreme heat and you go into the cold and you go back to extreme heat, it opens up all of your chakras, and I never even really believed in that whole chakra nonsense until I felt it. I remember being the first time I was in a steam room, and I tried to inhale, and I remember just it feeling stuck in below my solar plexus, more in my pelvis, and I just felt this pressure, and it was the strangest sensation. I couldn't take a deep breath, and that's when that breath got stuck in the pelvis, and I thought, there's a block, there's something going on. So maybe I will get emotional. I don't know. But there's something so profound about when you have a channel and you find some sort of block or something that opens you up. So last night we were in the sauna, and again, this heat just really, it's because you're not in you're in a state that you start being so relaxed that you think about other things, an emotional side that you would never even believe was there. So in the day-to-day life, you're constantly stressed. What do I have to do? What's my calendar look like? What am I doing tomorrow? When's my dentist appointment? When do I have to be on the plane? Things like that. But when you're in that heat and you're just so present, you start thinking. So my friend said, I've been wanting to know since I met you, you said you were sick for a long time. What was your story? And I just started crying. She didn't know it, but my eyes just filled with tears. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to talk about this because it was such a long journey for me. So when I was about 18, my parents had divorced. I didn't even make this connection until about 2 years ago. And someone said, well, what was going on when you first started getting migraines? I said, wow, I think my parents split up and I just moved to California. So I just moved to Northern California from Iowa to go to undergrad. And I remember being in my dorm room and just having this pounding and just this sensation, and just felt so much heaviness.
Yeah.
And one side in my head just pounding, and to the point that I wanted to die. The pain was so bad. I remember literally hitting myself in the head to take the pain away. And it was crazy. And this went on over and over and over. And so I saw my PCP. Puts me on a prophylactic Topamax, which is it's a bipolar medication. Off-label, this is supposed to be used for migraines. I don't believe it's a vasodilator. I don't even mechanistically know why they're prescribing this. It doesn't even work. Now as a doctor, flash forward 15 years, maybe 7 years, because I'm really not that old. But flash forward, I'm like, this is insane. This is insane that's what I took for so long. And I still have residual of tingling in my hands and feet from that medication I was on for so many years. I was losing weight. I didn't want to lose weight. Here I am still eating, but I'm like, I can't even keep weight on because this drug just makes you, shed pounds.
Yeah.
And that's just one element. I remember my mother was a nurse in the psych department. I said, Mom, I'm on this medication. I said, my personality is just like this. I said, I don't feel like myself anymore. But that's what the drug does. So not only did it not help my migraines, but I had side effects with the numbness and tingling, probably because it was pulling the B vitamins from my body. So B6, B12, really important for nerve regeneration. So here I am, continuing to take this crap, and it's not even helping me. So then what do? They add something else on. So now I'm taking injectables, I'm doing nasal sprays, I've got like a whole pharmacy.
Just napalming your body, yeah.
Yep. And then at the time, I remember I had transferred to University of Iowa. Headaches, progressively get worse. The pounding's worse. I'm vomiting like you can't believe. I remember a girlfriend picked me up. We were going to go to the gym. She had to stop the car. I threw up like 8 times. And then when you throw up, that's the body's homeostatic mechanism to help and alleviate the pain. So you want to throw up.
Right.
Because that helps, for a moment, it helps to ameliorate the pounding, the throbbing.
Right.
So then you puke again. Pain comes back. You try to take an anti-nausea medication, which I was on lots of anti-nausea meds too.
Wow.
And when you're on those, you can't even keep those in because you're still, unless it's injected into your bloodstream directly, if you've already started that cascade of vomiting, then it's not even going to help. So this went on for many, many years. I transferred to University of Iowa. I remember I met a neurologist at a coffee shop. He became my first boyfriend, and he did an EKG on me. He did all these tests, just gave me lots of prescriptions. And because he was, the resident physician at U of I, he's like, here, try this, try this, try this. So I tried all these things, and I was like, God, this is just getting crazy. So at that point, after graduation from undergrad, he moved to California. I stayed in Iowa, got a job, whatever. So went our separate ways. But I'm still grateful for that connection, just opening up the doors to understand more about brain activity and things like that. He's brilliant. But I just realized, I'm going to have to get a job that I can vomit if I need to, and I can't be at the office. And if my head's throbbing, I've got to have an environment that I can actually function. So I got involved with sales. So my first job, I sold office furniture.
Now, was your undergrad work in medicine or
it was business and theater,
okay.
Actually? So performing arts for the entrepreneur, because I wanted to start a theater. That
Very
was
cool.
A theater company.
Okay.
Yeah, and other business too.
Yeah.
Just the whole entrepreneur stuff.
Yeah.
So you do like marketing, finance, all that jazz.
Yeah.
So Papa John Business Center was where I spent most of my time in undergrad. So anyway, got a job in sales, and I did pharmaceutical sales. I did dental sales for a little while, and then I ended up working for Campbell Soup Company. That was my favorite company to work for. It was great. It was like a guy's industry, but I was the girl there. They were all like these older men that were just so sweet and took me to their wing, and it was a great company. So I traveled to Philadelphia a lot. I kind of had the region as my territory, but again, I did all of that because I could adapt to that lifestyle because of how sick I was.
Yeah.
So here I am, so chronically ill, injecting myself constantly, and then I was like, I'm done with this. I'm gonna figure this out. I've got to figure this out. I was like, I probably will cry, but God did not put you on the earth to feel like this. And after being sick for so long, I was like, I have to do something about it. So I found naturopathic medical school. And I would have gone to be an MD, but I thought, why would I do that? Why do I want to just diagnose and write prescriptions? Why do I want to do that? To make people feel the same way I did? Yeah. Absolutely not. So then I found out about Ayurvedic medicine. I went to India. I studied with an Ayurvedic doctor there my first year of medical school.
So cool.
That was amazing, just to show how sick people are in other countries, and the pathologies that they have are totally different than the disease states that we have here, but they're much more serious. By the time someone in India goes to a doctor, they're usually pretty far advanced. They're pretty sick. genetics. So uterine prolapse is a big thing there too, just because the women are in the fields all the time.
Yeah.
So there were things you could do for uterine prolapse and just different herbs that we would use. And there was a bone setter that I worked with, and that was amazing. So you get all this kind of insight. And when you have a bone setter, they didn't go get a hip replacement. They didn't get metal put in. They actually reset the bones so that this person, people in India could actually have these flourishing lives. They don't have access to the same kind of medication we do and the same kind of surgeries. But we've become so infiltrated with the system, with surgery, with prescriptions, that we just go to that. That shouldn't be our go-to. When I think back when I was 18 and I got sick, the doctor should have said, what's going on? What are you eating? Let's look at your hormones. Let's look at all these things. So over 90% of migraines are food related. So for me, that was part of it. If I have gluten and I have a glass of wine, I am done for it. I will be vomiting, retching the next day like you can't believe.
Even right now, to today.
Even right now, yeah. So you just learn your triggers.
You're in a high state, high vibrancy.
Yeah.
Still, you're in your vital state, as you said earlier.
Because either way, going back to genetics, when I tested my genetics and my detoxification pathway and my liver and all that stuff, you've got gluten allergies, which is celiac, and then you've got gluten sensitivity. So obviously I'm sensitive. I don't have celiac, but I'm sensitive to it to the point where I'm going to vomit. I'm going to have a migraine. Is it worth it? Absolutely not. So going to Bob's Donuts, I've done it a couple times since I lived here. Sicker than a dog
That
the
is
next
fantastic
day.
spot.
Yep,
especially at like 2 in the morning. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Is it worth it? I don't know. So that was my journey. And then so after going to medical school, I figured it out. So I did genetic testing. I looked at my hormones. I looked at heavy metals. It was really just it was a combination of all these things. So I decided to not go to MD school because this was more the route that allowed me to get to the root cause of patients, because you have to remove, this is my favorite naturopathic principle, you have to remove the obstacle to cure. For example, mother and father, my dad, I'm just like my father, very type A, stockbroker, very driven. And then my mother was a stay-at-home mom, overweight, loved to make casseroles with mayonnaise and all this garbage. And I'm just like, ay, ay, ay. So I was a vegetarian for 10 years, only because in the Midwest, they eat like crap. So I was like, I can't be at a dinner party and ask if that's organic beef or organic chicken. Like, I'm not going to, so it's just easier to say I'm vegetarian. So it was. That's what I did for a very long time. So I've got this dichotomy of this mother and this father who one's healthy, builds gyms wherever he goes. And then I've got my mother who's just like, not healthy at all. So what am I going to do with this stuff? So my mother asked me if she should start taking this really expensive, it's called Theracurmin by Integrative Therapeutics. I love ITI. I love that product. They're the ones that make this HPA Adapt as well, which is for adrenal and cortisol health, which we can talk about next.
Yes.
So anyway, she's like, should I start taking that supplement? And I said, Ma, you eat chocolate chips every night, and you drink milk every night like a little infant. Like,
right.
You're constantly feeding yourself this inflammatory food that the cow dairy, for example, you don't even have the enzymes to break that down. So all it's doing is sitting in your bloodstream. When it sits in your bloodstream, it has affinity for the joints. So how have your knees been? Oh, my knees been terrible. I've drank a lot of milk the last couple weeks. Maybe there is something
but
to
there's
that.
calcium in milk.
Yeah. And I love the taste, and we've been doing it for years.
Right.
But just because you've been doing something for years doesn't mean that it's right. So basically all that to say, I said, Ma, why don't you just eliminate that from your diet, then you can incorporate the Theracurmin or the curcumin. Because if you're constantly putting inflammation into your body, but you're trying to give yourself,
it's just a Band-Aid.
It's not a scale. It's not even doing anything.
Right.
That supplement cannot keep up with detoxing that out of your bloodstream. It just can't even keep up. So is curcumin great? Absolutely. But it's way, way, way more important than you buying and spending a dime on any supplement is making sure your diet is extremely clean, making sure your detoxing is a part of your daily lifestyle, making sure you've removed the obstacle to cure. So that's what it is. You can't get better unless you remove the obstacle to cure.
Yeah, 100% agree with you.
Yeah,
I love this.
Which for me, when I was sick, that was gluten, sugar. It was, the hormone imbalances. It was like the too much estrogens. It was not enough progesterone. It was because of the stress. And you've got other hormones that get all out of whack because of stress.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different combination of things.
So just real quick, before we talk about, you've got 2 supplements here I want to talk about that's sitting on the table. But before we go there, for you getting well, you had just the vomiting, the headaches. Sure, it was gluten and dairy. You removed that. Was there anything else like big though for you that was a game changer, that or any labs that you ran? You're like, holy shit! Like I had a lot of lead. Or was there anything that for you that was really turn the course other than diet? A diet is huge, like you said. Removing it is gonna be huge. But anything else that like you noticed that was kind of shocking? I guess maybe.
I really think that it was the genetic testing. So NutriHacker is the website that I said that you put the raw data into. I think doing the NutriHacker and understanding more about my detoxification pathways.
Yep.
So you have your cytochrome P450, you have phase 1 and phase 2 of detox. And so knowing that both of those phases were compromised. So for example, you have, people that overmethylate and undermethylate. So people either burn through a substance really quickly, which is like what I do. So I haven't even actually had that much coffee today, but I don't need a lot because I'm just already excited. But if let's say I actually did have 8 cups of coffee or 8 shots of coffee, like let's say 2 quad shots, that would actually calm me down. It would kind of counteract what's going on with the brain activity. But it has to do with that detoxification pathway. So same with alcohol. I can literally drink any guy under the table. And like, it's kind of
And it's not because you're from Iowa.
No, because I didn't even start drinking until I was 25. I literally did not have a glass of alcohol until I was 25.
Wow.
I'm only 26, so I mean, what the heck?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I've
noticed
only been drinking for a year, and I'm like, so good.
Yeah.
Just kidding. There I go about this age thing. It's because patients always ask me, like, literally, how old are you? Like, why?
Why is that important?
Do you think I'm less
Why is that
smart?
important? Yeah.
So if I did just get into medical school 2 years ago, am I less smart? If I had 10 more years,
it's a compliment. Okay, it's a compliment first of all because you look young, but you're a doctor, so they're trying to figure it out. That's what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Okay. I'll go with it. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll start telling people.
Yes.
But
they're like, don't you have to do medical school for 10 years? How old are you?
Yeah, it's 12 years. I was
see?
for 12 years.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's why people they're shocked.
I know. I went to medical
You
school
started
when
when
I
you were
was
12.
18.
Yeah, how did we know? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, like I said, the detoxification pathway is really, really important. So
Okay.
I burn through things. Same with medication, so aspirin, whatever it is. And then you have people who they don't burn through things as quickly, again, because of that. And so you just have to look and see what's going on with your body, what's affecting it. So when I had that liver congestion, was what we'll call it, liver congestion, understand that when you have too much estrogen, plus your liver basically makes, houses, and excretes hormones. So constantly you've got this hormonal turnover, right? So if that liver is congested, it's going to manifest, they call it in Chinese medicine, liver qi stagnation or liver yang rising. So if liver yang rising is that heat, it's going to manifest with like red eyes, kind of an agitated dosha, which in Ayurvedic medicine, they call that your pitta is high.
Yeah.
And I have a little bit of high pitta. So
You're definitely pitta.
You have, I'm pitta vata, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can see that.
And constantly, that's why I need a kapha. So I need a kapha to kind of balance me
Yeah,
out because,
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think it's more understanding what your body is doing, what your genetics are saying. So I think the biggest element to curing myself was through that. And I'm really grateful for the mentors that I had through medical school too. Like Dr. Hazel at SCNM was amazing, just the most motivating person that you will ever meet, just to understand about nature cure. So again, instead of starting medications, instead of starting supplements, just get the fresh water, get the sunlight, get the basic things, get the crap out of the diet. I mean, water is a huge thing for me when I talk to patients about their thyroid, about dehydration in general, anything. Your water source is so important. If you've got chlorine or you've got fluoride in the water, that is going to affect so many other pathways of cellular function in your body. It's not even funny. And people say, I don't want to spend money on water service. Oh, really? Well, do you want to spend money on thyroid removal later? I mean, you choose. Do you want to have fibromyalgia later? Do you want to have all these other diagnoses? Because you had too many molecules on a regular basis that were affecting your cellular function.
Yeah.
So I think, to answer your question, I think I probably had high mercury. I didn't ever test it. But I know that through undergrad, I had tuna fish in the cans almost every day.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty certain that I had high mercury. So by just doing other detoxification elements, like with glutathione on a regular basis, I still do glutathione almost regularly.
Do you inject that or?
Yep, intravenously. Yeah. The amount that you get, same thing with NAD. So with NAD,
even liposomal, you think it's the liposomal, like Quicksilver makes a liposomal glutathione.
Yeah. I think it tastes terrible. I wouldn't. Do it
my
myself.
6-year-old loves it, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, he
Good.
I don't know, he digs it.
It's great for his brain. Yeah. That's really good. It's really good. Does it have a flavor to it?
I think it has like a minty. The last time I got it, it was like a minty. Lime or lemon or something.
I think for kids it's probably a lot more potent. Adults need higher amounts, obviously. The same way with vitamin D. If your child is sick or you just give your child vitamin D, the amount that you would take 10,000 a day, for example, as an adult, is not, obviously you're going to give him 1,000. So his body getting the liposomal glutathione is a big deal. It's going to be a bigger deal for him versus an adult. You need much higher doses, especially once you build up a tolerance and it's called your body burden. So as an adult, your body burden is much higher than a child's body burden.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to do intravenous, and I usually do, for myself, I think I'm up to around 3,000 milligrams.
And you do that once a week?
Yeah, about once a week.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's really, really important just in terms of, like I said, supporting the liver, supporting skin health, supporting, it's basically a free radical scavenger. So it's going to find these toxins in your body. help to remove them and then support the liver to get it out. Same thing with like the MIC B12. So people love the MIC fat burner injection. They love this molecule thinking, oh, it's just going to help me be skinny. I'm going to look good. There's so much more to it. You know, those molecules really help to support the liver, help to support, you know, the vascular system, things like that, to help remove the fat from your body. Again, with drinking a lot of water, with having a proper lifestyle, diet, exercise, all that stuff. So
I love it.
There's no magic bullet.
I love that. And one of the great things that you said too is just, what I love is just, you have to have a lot of awareness about what is going around you. And if you don't have the awareness, like with your mom, of like removing milk, chocolate milk from your diet, like you're not
chocolate chips and skim milk.
Got it. Oh, at least it was skim, right?
Like diet soda.
Yeah.
We all know what that does. Causes brain swelling, causes tumors, things like that. So
no big deal.
But
yeah, if you're not doing those basic things, then you know, we don't need to worry about the biohacking and the IV drips. Like, you got to do the basic stuff first. So I love that. Real quick, because you're talking about the IV therapy, I want to talk about that next. But for everyone that can't see, we have this on video, but talk to me about these two supplements that you brought and you have them on the table here. Why are these so important? Why do you want to talk about them?
These are nothing that I like brought to show. These are literally on my desk like constantly. So I've got a couple tinctures up there. Down here I've got like probably 17 supplements, my bottom shelf. And so if I'm with patients,
this is like my house, by the way. Same thing.
At the house.
My cabinet is just filled of stuff.
That's good. You just gotta hone in, get on a regimen, because there's so many supplements that sit on the shelf. I think it's really important to take supplements therapeutically, therapeutic dosing, things like that. If you just willy-nilly take supplements right now with coronavirus, I'll just touch on that really quickly.
Yeah, let's talk about
People are like, oh, I'm just going to take vitamin C. I'm going to make sure I have my Sani wipes, all that kind of stuff, you know, and it's great. You know, we should always be washing our hands regardless. Sure. And, you know, in between patients, it's a given that I'm going to wash my hands at least once, right, between the patients. But things like that, in terms of vitamin C, you have to actually look at the studies. And I think it was Alex Vasquez who helped to write one of our textbooks in medical school.
Yeah.
So he put an article out. Basically, it has to do with viruses will flourish obviously when there's an immune compromised system. We all know that, right? That's why it's affecting children and elderly people the most. So his study basically says doing 3 grams of vitamin C, TID, with quercetin, TID is going to help to modulate the histamine levels, which will then give your body, again, that vital force to be able to fight and combat the virus. So even if you have it, you're not manifesting symptoms. The thing that you have to be the most careful of is, for example, I have a patient who, she's a caretaker for a lot of elderly people, 80s, 90s, you know, very sick elderly people that are pretty immobile. So they're stagnant. They're not good circulation. Their lymphatics aren't moving. They're not able to detox, you know, chemicals and all this kind of stuff. So they're sitting there, not moving. And so any amount of bacteria, any amount of viral load that comes their way, they just can't handle it.
They're
because that vital force is so diminished because there's no movement. So with her, she came in to see me. She's coming in weekly to do high dose vitamin C IVs. And I think that's fantastic, because if she keeps the vitamin C is going to help to keep that at bay. First of all, we know that there's many studies have been out. China just put another study out, which China was also imprisoning people for talking about it for the first 6 weeks. So I don't know how much I believe coming from China right now.
Sure.
At the end of the day, there's still studies on it, and I have other patients from Hong Kong that do high dose vitamin C for post-cancer treatment. So there's enough literature out there on vitamin C that we know it's helping. So what she does is prophylactically, because she's around this environment for her job, she comes in to get the IVs, and I think it's fantastic because she doesn't want to be the caveat or the culprit to get these other people sick. So I think it's just being aware of that. If you have an elderly, you know, parent or something, I would probably, if you take public transportation, I would avoid going to see your parents for a while, because you could be a carrier and you don't want to do that. You know, it's just like a lot of times.
You could be a carrier with no symptoms.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's just like men. I mean, with sexually transmitted diseases, you know, oftentimes men are the carriers. They don't know. They're not manifesting any kind of symptom. It's the woman, because she's got more of that. It's the whole vaginal system is just much more vulnerable to and susceptible to manifest different symptoms, that kind of thing. So with corona, I think the most important thing is really just vitamin C, zinc, anything that's going to help the immune system, but doing it in therapeutic doses. So it's not just, you know, once in a while I'm taking vitamin C, but doing, you know, 3 grams TID is pretty good.
TID, what does that mean?
3 times a day.
3 times a day.
At least.
Cool.
And you usually want to take it with food. It can affect the digestive system a little bit, so it can make you a little bit nauseous, just like when you take a prenatal on an empty stomach. Same thing with zinc. So you always want to do that. There's liposomal C. We're talking about the liposomal glutathione. Liposomal C is also really important. You can take higher doses of that as well. Da Vinci Laboratories of Vermont has a really good product that I recommend for a lot of patients to take too. Ozone therapy, amazing. Actually, Dr. It's Rowan.
Robert Rowan.
Yeah, he has a really, really, really great great YouTube video out right now on coronavirus. The mechanism of the cysteine molecule that basically goes around the virus. And so the ozone molecule helps to take those tentacles basically from that cell and make it so that it can't get into the healthy cells. So ozone is amazing. And we will have it here at SFNM. We don't yet.
I can't wait.
So the reason, just to kind of segue into why I'm even here, so I had many opportunities to go various places, like most people do. You go where the best opportunity is. I knew that when I was 19, I always wanted to come back to San Francisco. I said I left my heart in San Francisco, and the goal was always to come back. So I applied for the residency here at San Francisco Natural Medicine. I talked to Dr. Carl Hanji-Bauer, who's been in practice for over 30 years. He is definitely a pioneer in naturopathic medicine. So he lobbied back in the 80s for naturopathic medicine to get passed. So that is why I came here, to learn from him. He is brilliant. He is a go-getter. He fought and fought and fought. So he was the second number for licensure in the state of California. And so he's my mentor, and I feel so blessed I even got to work with him. In addition to that, he also knows that I love business. I love sales. I love not only sales, but I love explaining to people and patients why they need something. I don't have to sell. I believe in stuff.
Yeah,
patients say, okay, great. I don't care how much it costs, because the patients that come here to San Francisco Natural Medicine usually want to optimize their health. They're in VC, they're entrepreneurs. They really want to be fucking good at what they do, just like I do. I want to be the best. I don't want you to come to me because I'm going to get you a little bit better. I want you to feel so fantastic that you can go forth and fulfill every dream that you want to do in this year, in this next 5 years, in this lifetime.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, Dr. Carl brought me here because I was very, excited and motivated. And so the regenerative medicine portion of my medical training is why I came here. So I do a lot of the joint injections using exosomes, platelet-rich plasma, all that kind of stuff. So as I've been here for, it'll be 2 years in May, I've had to bring on these various modalities one step at a time. So you have to write all the different, just informed consents and blogs and articles, because when you introduce something, the masses want to know why. Well, do you have literature on that? So it's been a lot of work. So ozone's not here yet, but it will be. And there's not a lot of people in the Bay Area that are offering ozone too. So, but it's very powerful for getting rid of various microbes, viruses, bacterial infections, things like that. If there's GI compromise and you've got dysbiosis, you can't absorb your nutrients. So it's really important to help to get that intestinal wall back into optimal, basically absorption levels, because that's what's going to help you to again have an immune system. Your immune system cannot do anything unless your GI tract is that intestinal wall is a tight junction.
Tight,
If you don't have that tight junction, molecules will leak out. That's going to get autoimmune conditions, things like that. So with all that being said, part of the whole regenerative medicine process, we talked a lot about cortisol. So cortisol is one of the biggest buzzwords, I think, here in my practice, because in San Francisco, in New York, it doesn't matter where you are. If you have stress in your life, your cortisol is likely, your adrenal glands are working overtime. And so it's really important to give that adrenal gland the support it needs. There was just a cadaver study done recently, and the cadavers, all adrenal glands were the size of a pea. So originally they started out the size of a walnut, which is about the size of a prostate gland. But all these cadavers, they were literally the size of a pea. That means that they have shriveled up and, well, they're obviously dead because they're a cadaver. But prior to that organ should have been intact. It should have been the right size, but it wasn't. And the reason for that was the chronic stress. And when you say chronic stress, people say, well, I'm not really that stressed. Even if you just have to be on, like right now we're on, right? When I woke up first thing this morning, I have my little morning regimen, but after that, the second I turn my phone off of airplane mode, which everyone needs to sleep with their phone in airplane mode across the room, you don't need that garbage, you don't need the blue light, you don't need any of that. If you want to get a good night's sleep, it's really important to have good, dark rooms without electricity, EMFs, any of that stuff around. So as soon as you turn your phone off of airplane mode, the emails come through, the calls come through, the texts
are coming in.
Through,
14 I got this morning. I'm the same way. Off airplane mode, I look at my phone, I got 14 texts. I'm like,
so you have to be prepared to combat all that, because half that is nonsense. Half the emails I get, half the texts, it's nonsense.
Agreed.
So if you have to be on, it's really important that you're modulating those cortisol levels, your DHEA, which is a precursor sex hormone, which if you want to have a good libido, if you want to have a good, enjoyable life, you don't want to feel like, oh, it's 3 o'clock, I feel like trash. If you don't want that to happen, it's really important to support the adrenal glands. So that's why I say I don't market these products. I don't just get them out. This is literally what I take multiple times a day. So you saw me, I think, when I first got here. This is a mixture of my own herbal concoction. Almost every patient that comes in, I'd say 90% of my patients come in and they get their own herbal concoction. So based on their brain function, based on all of their symptoms, conglomeratively, I put together an herbal formula for them, having to do with their hormones, their energy, their sleep factors, stress, their central nervous system. Are they usually in parasympathetic tone or are they in sympathetic tone? Rest and digest.
Most of us are probably in sympathetic, right? Before we got here, you were injecting me with this NAD therapy, and you were having trouble finding the vein, and you kind of asked me, "Are you a little like?" I'm like,
I didn't have trouble finding the vein.
Not trouble finding the vein.
Okay. I found the vein.
You found the vein.
Let's let everybody know.
Okay,
that.
Sorry. I phrased that wrong.
The vein was a little bit, it almost felt sclerosed, but I know that it's not sclerosed. So the vein was a bit hardened, like you were saying, and usually that's due to cortisol. It can be because you didn't sleep well last night. It can be because of your blood pressure is high and you're a little bit stressed.
Yeah.
But typically, I've found a strong relationship with cortisol being high to veins just being a bit more hardened.
Yeah.
And so
I totally and I said I was like, yeah, I'm a little stressed right now.
How much sleep did you get last night?
I did okay last night. I didn't have my Aura ring as we were talking. I didn't have it on last night because I switched phones, so I didn't have it on. But I probably got 7 hours or something.
Okay, consecutively, or do you wake up through the night?
I probably woke up once. Yeah, once.
To use the bathroom, or?
No, I just randomly woke up. I think I woke up at like 5, and then I went back to bed for like another hour.
And then how long does it take you to fall back asleep when you
wake up? My latency was it took me a little bit. Yeah, usually I don't, yeah.
Again, and that's all related to cortisol. So it's like people say, oh, I took a sleeping thing and it kind of worked. I fell asleep okay. Yeah. Well, there's such a difference between, using melatonin. Like I take 6 milligrams, 3 to 6 milligrams a night, usually more just because I think transitionally right now I don't do it permanently, but you have to look at your situation.
You cycle off the melatonin. You're not every night.
I do.
Yeah,
but right now I'm going through a bit of a stressful time just with work and stuff. So one of the other
and you know that, and so that's cool. So you're reading your body, and you're like, this is what I need right now.
Yeah, I know my workload's tripled in the last 2 months, so that's that. So I know what I need, and it's kind of, you have to get that point. If you don't know what your body needs, that's when you need to see somebody. It's really important to talk to your healthcare provider about how to dose supplements. You cannot willy-nilly just start taking stuff. If you want it to work, if you want it to be impactful, it's really important to hone in and get the dosing down correctly. But melatonin will help you fall asleep, does not help you stay asleep. So I do a salivary cortisol test × 4. So I remember during medical school, I asked
the Dutch test, right?
No.
Something different.
No, Dutch might do it, but I use ZRT for adrenal testing. But Dutch test is great. I love Dutch test.
Yeah.
More for hormones, but for adrenal testing, they're all hormones.
The ZRT.
But for ZRT cortisol specifically, I like to do that test.
Cool.
In medical school, I remember I asked my PCP, I said, I'm in my 2nd year of pathology. I'm like, I really want to test my cortisol. This stuff's so cool, and you think you have every disease there is out there. And,
I have that. Yeah.
Yeah, you totally do. So you don't, but you think you do.
You think you do, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I said, can I check my cortisol? She refers me to an endocrinologist just to get my cortisol tested. Do you know how long I was going to have to wait to see a specialty endocrinologist just to get my cortisol tested? This is insane.
Yeah.
Because everybody, literally, if you're between the age of, I say, if you live in the Bay Area, even if you're retired, I have a patient 71, her husband drives her crazy. I'm like, you need to be on adrenal support because handling that guy, that's a job in itself. So even if you're not retired, I think everybody needs to be on adrenal support. The reality
feel the same way,
again, we're on. So if you're not on that, then you're going to wake up through the night and you may not be able to go back to sleep. It's not an issue of, I had to wake up to urinate, my prostate may be enlarged or whatever, because that happens all the time. There's things we can do to reduce the size of the prostate as well, so you're not waking up to pee. Or if you're a woman and you're going through other situations and you've got urinary incontinence or whatever. There's things and reasons why people wake up, but it's why are you doing that? Why are you waking up? Is it cortisol? Is it inflammation? Is it because you're perimenopausal? What's going on? So so cortisol is important. So that salivary test, you check it 4 times throughout the day. The body has a natural curvature, so it spikes first thing in the morning. Ideally, and then gradually plateaus until bedtime. But what I'm finding is when I run these tests, people get a spike at 11 p.m. It's plummeted first thing in the morning. It doesn't spike again until 10, 11 o'clock a.m. So if you wake up and you don't feel refreshed and you can't live your best life, you're like, God, why does it take me 4 cups of coffee to wake up? That's not normal. But also, I think exercise, sunlight first thing in the morning is really good for resetting that circadian rhythm. Mm-hmm. It helps the thyroid gland, to be stimulated, to make thyroid stimulating hormone. That is so important. The thyroid, if that's not in track, if your other hormones aren't in track, you're not going to feel good. You're not going to feel optimal. So testing this stuff is really important, especially as you get older, as your body starts changing and things like that.
So you also do a lot of work with bioidentical hormones. So if someone comes into you and they're like, hey, Dr. Shannon, I'm not sleeping well. I'm waking up. I have insomnia. I'm waking up at every 2 a.m. I go to bed at 9, but at 2 a.m. I wake up and I can't go back to sleep or something like that. Is that your first thing to think about? Are you thinking of hormones, or are you thinking more natural supplements like the ones we're talking about?
either of those things. I'm thinking about what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
When did this start? Did this start 2 months ago? Did it start last year? Did it start 2 years ago? Because that same patient that I talked about that had the husband and the boyfriend, that Epstein-Barr virus, she also hadn't been sleeping well. Ever since she was not living and standing in her truth, her sleep just started changing immensely. So I want to find out when it started and then find out why it started. So when you find out the why and the when and the how, then you can fix it. I'm not going to think about how I'm going to treat anything until I know when it started. So that, again, going back to if it's people our age, you know, in their 30s, their 40s, or their 20s. Then,
yes, your age.
Yeah,
20s,
exactly.
yes.
I know. So I'm being cute.
In our age, yes.
I'm being cute.
Yeah.
If you think about that person not being able to sleep versus my mom who is in her 50s, why she can't sleep, well, most likely hers has to do with, you know, she now has this diminished estrogen and progesterone, right? Her LH, FSH is starting to skyrocket because the hypothalamus is trying to signal to the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is trying to signal to the ovaries, make more estrogen, make more progesterone. But the body's like, I'm shutting down, I'm done, I'm over this. So when that happens, you know, you have to figure out, okay, well, how am I going to treat this? Do they want to be on bioidentical hormones? If that's the case. But you have to look at your age demographic for sure. That's a huge part of it. Because naturally, as we get older, as your mitochondria, the powerhouse of each cell, as it starts to shut down, your body just kind of starts dying. That's the reality. So that's
we're meant to start to die, right?
We are.
We procreated, you're done now.
Are. Yep. And so that's why it is so important to even, like, for me, this whole anti-aging medicine. Anti-aging it's a word that as a medical professional, I think it's kind of unprofessional to use, but as people out in but as people who are non-physicians or non-practicing medical professionals, they use that word. And because it's important, because we all want to age gracefully and age well. You don't want to feel like you're dying. Even if you are, you don't want to live like that. I think they just raised Social Security to 67. That just got passed because people are living to be longer. So that's kind of what I specialize in, is anti-aging and regenerative medicine, because why not? If people are living longer, if people are starting more businesses, if you love what you do, if you have ideas and you want to start implementing and impacting whatever realm, whatever you're good at, I want to help you do it better. That's my whole thing. So I can segue that into the NAD treatment. So that's
talk
NAD.
About that. So you hooked me up. We're doing NAD therapy right now. First of all, explain what NAD is to people, and then why we should be doing it.
Yeah. So NAD is. I said earlier, about 20 minutes ago, I said there is no magic bullet. I said that. However, now I'm going to go back because this is actually, it's known as the magic bullet. So what happens is, because of all the cellular damage, like I talked about the fluorine, the chlorine, different heavy metals, everything, the stuff. So one thing, I'm going to segue. I take the bus. I don't use Ubers. I can't stand them. So one of the main reasons I cannot stand Uber is, I would say 90% of them have air fresheners in there. All of those air fresheners are synthetic endocrine disruptors. If you read the ingredients, I remember one apartment I lived at, I made them give me a breakdown of the ingredients because I felt sick every time I worked out. I was like, what is going on? I read those ingredients. They should be banned from production. It's just disgusting. Yeah. So when I think about having to undo those chemicals that I have now inhaled, they're now in my bloodstream, all those chemicals, so everybody using Glade air fresheners, any lotions from Bath & Body Works, Victoria's Secrets, perfumes that are, not really high-end perfumes that are so synthetic, that all gets in your nasal cavity. It all gets in your bloodstream. It affects so much of your cellular function. Yeah. So now the cells start dying off. The cells they can't function. So literally half your body is not even performing at, it's 30%. So what NAD does is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide is a molecule that's essential for every cell of every living organism. So plants, animals, they find it in any kind of autopsy they do. It's in every cell. We all need NAD. So again, as we have this body burden that continues to rise, your NAD is pretty much non-existent. It's very difficult to start making it, or to have it become active in the body. So NAD plus is actually what we administer. So it's not, there's NADH and NAD plus. NADH is still good, but your body has to still make it the active form. So NAD plus really kind of gives you that boost. What it was is it started quite a long time ago. I don't remember how it was first administered. It might have been intranasally. I don't remember. But it was used for drug and alcohol withdrawal symptoms. Okay. So I thought I read
that about like heroin addicts coming off of addiction were using it and got a lot of success. I think, right?
Alcohol, benzodiazepines. You name it. Any drug or alcohol substance. This is really helpful for mitigating those side effects. It's phenomenal. And there's a whole different detox protocol. If it is for alcohol, you have to make sure you don't kill anyone, obviously. Yeah. But the NADH is just or the NAD plus is going to help to mitigate those symptoms. So basically, I have people that are in VC, I have people that have fibromyalgia, I have patients that have been on antipsychotics, and they just need recalibrated. They just need a bump. They just need to feel good. So when you do this, it's like 1 molecule of NAD plus yields 3 molecules of ATP. That's huge because the whole body's goal is to make adenosine triphosphate, right? That's the entire goal of everyone. Your muscles need it, your eyeballs to twitch, your smooth muscle, anything that has to do with the abdominal organs, everything requires ATP to function. So NAD is giving a triple magnitude of that ATP production. And since it crosses the blood-brain barrier, the amount of mental clarity the patients have when they walk away, I have had 3 patients so far say, my overall gratitude for life has improved immensely. They just feel a gratitude. And when I've had patients say that to me, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm in business. So it's one of my most passionate things right now is the NAD therapy because I see it working. I see it changing lives. It helps with, people that have fascia issues with their feet or just, muscle tension, things like that. NAD is literally going in, it's waking up every cell of the body and just giving people an overall vitality that they need, that they probably haven't had for a very long time. So that's why people, I often recommend starting with 6 protocols, so do 6 treatments, and then we see how we feel. But if you're doing it for insomnia, if you're doing it for,
You've seen it help with insomnia?
Oh, it definitely helps with insomnia.
Really?
Sure. Yeah.
And nothing else. They just did NAD.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Absolutely. There's many factors. If someone has insomnia because, they're going through a stressful time or they're working too late, they're on their phone too late, you need to address those things because lifestyle choices and habits are so important. That your heart is the most vulnerable at night and in the morning. A pastor told me this one time. And I will never forget that. So at night, I think oftentimes people just like to tune out, whether they're looking at pornography, whether they're looking at, they're watching, Netflix, or they're numbing out because they don't want to be at peace or to think about what's really going on. They just want to mask and push things away.
Yeah.
It's really important what you do with your nighttime and your morning time regimens. So I have patients write out gratitude lists first thing in the morning. I have them write affirmations in the evening, reread them first thing in the morning because people really self-hate. And I'm not really into the whole self-love thing. I'm not going there because I think that people love themselves too much. But when you truly, truly believe in yourself and you've gotten rid of the trauma from not feeling good enough or whatever else, it's really important to affirm yourself rather than looking at your phone first thing in the morning and realizing, oh, wow, they got 32,000 likes and, God, I'm fat and I just I feel terrible about myself. I mean, habits and that nighttime and that morning time regimen are so important. So I really address insomnia from both of those elements too, from those aspects.
Very cool. And I've been on it for, I don't know, an hour or so. I feel great. I haven't noticed anything. We were talking a little bit offline before we even get started. We were saying, hey, like some people I know, they do the NAD therapy. They feel like this constriction in their chest or something. Like they feel like really tight. And then afterwards there's this release. I haven't felt any of that. So
that's, again, I've done a lot of studying. I learned from Ken Starr. He's an MD, and he has a clinic in Louisiana and San Diego. I think his clinic's in San Diego. Louisiana is where we get the supply from Archway Pharmacy. Nonetheless, Ken Starr is the guru of NAD. So if I have questions on anything, any protocols, I'll either call his nurse or I'll call him. So I spent thousands of dollars to go to the training. If anybody tries to administer NAD HT or NAD plus and they have not gone through the proper training, I would say absolutely not. And you find a practitioner who has gone through the training because it is really, really important to understand the contraindications, to understand if someone's on anti-psych meds currently. If they're titrating off these meds, it's very dangerous to do that. So if you're doing that, it's really important to know what you're doing, how much to dose, what is their titration schedule, and things like that. So you can't just willy-nilly start treating people with NAD. So the reason people have, the cardiac constriction and things like that is because probably it's being dripped too fast. The practitioner, whoever is administering it, probably hasn't done the research. They probably didn't go to the trainings. They don't really know what they're doing. But it can be, so as good as all these things are, as good as ashwagandha is, as good as, hawthorn, which is a really strong herb, cardiaca leonoris, as good as these herbs are, they can be very, very dangerous too. Yeah. So just because something's natural doesn't mean it can't kill you. I could kill you if I wanted to. I don't want to kill you. I don't want to kill you. The point is, it's so important to use these things wisely and to know how to dose them, when to dose them, and the protocols for all these things. So protocols with NAD is the biggest thing. So we don't want to have anyone to have a cardiac event. It's really important to know their cardiac history, to know what medications they're on. This can lower blood pressure. So does their blood pressure already run low? You don't want people passing out. You got to resuscitate them. I've had it happen many, many times. Put the legs up, you pound the chest, heat on the chest, ice in the back of the neck, and it happens. You bring them back really before they get to that point of passing out. But it happens because everybody is so different. Everybody's body burden, everyone's doshic makeup is so different. So it's never one size fits all. I have a patient, he's just moved here from Lagos. He's an investor. And I have him on this protocol. He's a very big guy. I'm going to put him on 500 milligrams, pretty much right at the gate. I'm going to keep him at that high dose. Because he's such a big guy, it's going to take more of a substance. So that's another thing in allopathic medicine. Let's say they start you on, let's say they want to start you on Ambien or on Adderall. So everybody that starts on Adderall typically is the same milligram. An 88-pound woman, a 200-pound guy, everybody started at this, 10 milligram, for example.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's not okay. So I look at every dose is different between patient to patient and what I treat them with. So, for example, for you, I did 125 milligrams. It's the starting dose. Yeah. So we always do a trial dose just to make sure you don't have an adverse event.
Yeah. And so, and what should I feel afterwards? Or you just kind of everything you said, like probably mental, or I guess how soon will I feel this clarity, this just maybe this? I'm expecting to be like kind of like just buzzing and energy, but.
It's not like taking a pill. It's not like drinking a cup of coffee by any means. I think it's restorative. If I had to use a word for NAD, it's restorative. So because it has an affinity, it can go to the liver, it can go to the pulmonary system, it can go to all the muscles. It's going everywhere in the body. So literally, it's just kind of giving you that, again, I hate to use that word again, but it's giving that vitality.
Vital force, yeah.
I like to say that it's not what you do feel, it's the symptoms that you don't feel. So the fact that you don't feel terrible, the fact that you don't have insomnia anymore, the fact that you don't have muscle pain and fatigue and nerve pain. The fact that you don't have those things there, that's the presence of NAD.
Yeah.
In someone who's actually, very, very healthy like yourself, you work out, you eat well, you're very cognizant of these things. For you, I think it's just going to give you a little bit of a boost of mental clarity.
Yeah.
So your cognition, your memory,
maybe I'll sleep better tonight.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the night of, people sleep a little bit worse, but the following nights, they feel amazing. I had one patient, she's a very prominent real estate agent here in town. Phenomenal woman. She's very successful, and she's had chronic fatigue, I think, for about since she was 38. She's 71, 68, about 30 years. Chronic fatigue for 30 years. So there was 1 year when she was 38, she was in bed for the whole year, literally in bed. She had disability, she was fine, whatever. But now she's one of the top real estate agents in San Francisco. Comes to me, gets 2 IVs. First one was 125, second one was 250 NAD. She's sicker than a dog. She was in bed the entire day, felt nauseous, just a wreck. But the day after that, and that's the only patient I've ever had react that way.
Yeah.
But she had chronic fatigue and probably mitochondrial dysfunction for so many years that the amount of wake up that it did to her body was just too much.
Yeah.
It was probably so stimulating for her. But now, since then, she hasn't had to take a nap. She's sleeping better. She feels great. So it speaks for itself. The substance really does speak for itself. So I usually say if you're just a healthy person, you're not actually using NAD for a specific pathology, I say start with 6 treatments and see how you feel.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I have so many more questions for you, but we've already been going for like an hour and some change. So, and I know you're going to be going, you just told me you're going to go to this peptide course in the summer, right?
It's next month.
Oh, next month.
Assuming that travel's not shut down. So yes.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Peptides are kind of the new cutting edge thing, and so there's various peptides that can be used for whether it's for sexual function, whether it's for healing post-injection therapy. So I do a lot of joint injections for hips, shoulders, knees, things like that.
You do prolotherapy, right?
Prolotherapy, platelet-rich plasma, and exosomes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and by exosomes, you're talking like stem cells. Is that right?
So exosomes, I like to call them the precursor to stem cells. So legally, I can't call them stem cells, but what you take from the amniotic sac, the placental tissue, and the umbilical cord of planned cesareans. I'm currently using a company called Predictive. Predictive is very good. I might be switching that company to another MD that started a company in LA. Soon, but that's nonetheless, exosomes come from these derivatives of the amniotic tissue and sac. So what that does is they're acellular, so they don't have a cellular component to them, but it stimulates your own body's ability to then make stem cells. So they are the proof is in the pudding again. You can use them for hair restoration. You can use them for the O and the P shot. You can use them for the joints, anything like that. But the peptides go really nicely in that post-care healing as well. So peptides can be used across the board for many things, whether it's hormone balance, like I said, sexual function, or the pain, reducing inflammation, things like that. Some for autoimmune conditions. So I'll be going to the peptide seminar, and we'll be having those by the end of the year. Yeah.
So I bring that up because we got to do a part 2 because there's so much stuff that I still haven't. I wanted to talk more about prolotherapy, PRP, the O shot, the P shot, the Gaines wave, the peptides. There's so many other things that you're doing that I want to talk about. So let's do a plan. Let's do a part 2. I want to go into like the lightning round of questions to kind of wrap things up today.
Sure.
Cool with that?
Yeah.
So just real quick, are there any exciting projects that you're working on right now?
I think the exciting projects are probably the peptides is the biggest thing right now, I think, in regenerative medicine, just because people are feeling so good on them. It's reversing age. It's like, insulin-like growth factor, so people do a lot of IGF injections with themselves that are compounded formulas, and I think that the peptides go really nicely with the IGF therapy, the O and the P shot, like we briefly talked about. So when you have, whether it's urinary incontinence, whether it's, decreased libido or, any kind of sexual dysfunction that's going on, this injection of you taking your own blood out, spitting it down, injecting the vagina or the penis is a game changer. I mean, men joke and say, you saved my marriage. Women, I mean, I've had myself treated. I had a guy from Canada. I offered to be the demo at one of the trainings because I thought if anybody's going to inject me, I want it to be the best of the best.
Yeah.
I had urinary incontinence I was a runner for many years, half marathons, all that jazz.
Yeah.
Your uterus starts to tilt if you're an athlete. And so that uterine tilt is also what puts pressure on the urethra. So then it makes you have to pee more. So I did one injection and it was gone. So yeah, so that's probably what I'm most excited about right now. We're not doing it here yet, but that and ozone therapy, there's new studies coming out with ozone therapy all the time. Ozone for coronavirus is fantastic.
Yeah.
If you can have access to it, if you've been exposed to coronavirus, I strongly urge you to do at least 6 sessions. Just get it eradicated. Fix
when you
your
say
body.
ozone, just for people, you can get it injected, you can inhale it, you can drink bubbled ozone water. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
what would people do that insufflations, like rectal ozone?
Yeah, if you have colon cancer, any kind of pre or post treatment, I think that rectal ozone is really great. So the ozone is just the triple oxygen molecule. Whenever you hyperoxygenate the body, and basically free radicals and bacteria and viruses cannot withstand that type of environment. So what I do is typically I'll take about 120 cc's of blood out and then put it back into the body. But before you put it back in, you put double
So
the
you're doing
amount.
injections.
Yeah. So you
okay,
take
cool.
The blood. You can do 10 pass, 3 pass, single pass. It doesn't matter. So it's basically in your blood, and when the blood starts out like this deep maroon color, so when you have oxidative stress in the body, your blood is very dark. And that presence of very dark blood just means the presence of viral load, bacterial, it can be not enough sleep. Something's off when the blood is that dark, but that's very common to see. So when you put the ozone back into the bag of the blood that we've just taken out, your blood goes from this plum color to this fire engine red, and that's the presence of all that oxygen in there. And it's amazing to see. So it goes in, and it basically helps to alkaline the system, kill off the viruses, the bacteria, all that. So that's the ozone that's been the most studied. That's what I've seen work in practice. Anything that you're doing topically, intranasally, anything like that, it's just not getting to the dose that we want.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's not a therapeutic dose. So ozone, sexual rejuvenation, hair restoration, all of that is probably and peptides are my most excitable things right now.
You're rocking, man. I gotta acknowledge you. I really just appreciate your energy and just gumption to go out and just do more. Like what you have built here already with the IV therapy and stuff is enough. Most people will be happy with that, and you're like not satisfied. So I really love that, and I'm just so happy that you're continuing to do it because people like me in San Francisco who are interested in this stuff, I'm happy. Like, this is great for us. This is great for me. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And I feel so blessed that I was able to have the healing journey that I had and able to do this stuff, because I tell patients if they feel good, I'm a vessel. That's it. I'm a vessel. I'm a caveat. That's it. And part of the reason that people go into medicine is because they want to learn. People go into medicine for all different reasons, for money, mostly. But for me, I never want to stop learning. Whenever I saw doctors in the past, I always wanted to see the resident doctor, because the resident always knows the cutting edge, the most updated information. They have the most current data, the studies, they know it. And that's what I want to be. I want people to come to me because I've got the most cutting edge, and I'm going to get them better, and they're going to feel better when they walked in. There's 3 things. Don't kill the patient, listen to the patient, touch the patient, make them feel just a little bit better when they walk out than when they came in.
So cool. Who inspires you right now when you think about people in the wellness, the biohacking, the health world? Who's someone that you? It could even be somebody older or whatever. Who is somebody that you currently follow or that inspires you?
That's so hard because I have so many. I mean, I could
Yeah.
say it's Dr. Carl Hanji Bauer. I could say it's Dr. Melanie Icard. I work with her in Arizona. She took me under her wing. Dr. Susan Williamson, who is a naturopath out of Arizona, and then Dr. Melanie Icard. Those are two mentors that I stay in touch with. And to be honest, those are the people. I don't. It's not people on YouTube, LinkedIn that are posting all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's not it for me. There's
Yeah.
tons of good authors. There's tons of good doctors out there. But it's the people who have believed in me and taken me under their wing, and I love that because I feel so encouraged. I've gotten to learn from the best. So those two doctors, Dr. Carl Hanji Bauer, I'm just really grateful for the people that have believed in me and given me a chance.
Yeah.
And that see the motivation, that see the drive, that see that I have the same passions as they do.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Any I'm an avid reader. Any books or 1 to 3 books that were game changers for you that you would recommend other people read?
Yeah, there's a book I actually have on my shelf. It's called Safe People by Dr. Henry Cloud and something Townsend. But Safe People is really good. Talks about boundaries in every aspect of your life. And are you not only capable of having a safe relationship with other people, are they safe for you? Are you safe for them?
Oh,
And
interesting.
I have many patients read that book. I got it for my high school graduation. I still read it all the time. This book, Superhuman by Dave Asbury, he is a biohacker. A patient gave this to me. I like this a lot because it just puts things into very simple. If you're not a physician, you're not in the medical field, it can really help you understand just some basic changes that you can make in your life to really optimize your health. And then this one, if you have any kind of autoimmune condition, I saw Tom O'Brien recently. He spoke last year in the Bay Area. And so the autoimmune fix, again, if you have other stuff going on, I think this book is incredible. On a personal level, my favorite author is C.S. Lewis. So I'm also reading The Four Loves by C.S. Lewis, and that's an amazing book too. So I think
Thank
that
you.
having balance across the board is really important. You can't just read literature from one element, but it's really important to stay abreast in all topics, whether it's philosophy, literature, history, poetry. I think it's really important to be balanced. I think we have a lack of balance right now going on, and I think that even lack of balance will really manifest in disease in its own way. So
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's funny. If you look at, I'm always reading like 3 books at once, and like one book's on parenting, how to be a better parent. Another book's like on biohacking or like health, and then the other one who is like a I don't know, leadership book or something. So yeah, I'm the same way.
how to be a better parent. Does that actually work? I don't think you can read that shit. Can you?
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. There's some good people out there like Dr. Shafali. The reason I mentioned her, she was like on Oprah and stuff. But
Okay.
there's a lot of just like mindfulness stuff to be aware of, and then really I think is just being where the kid is at, and it's hard to do that because, as you said, we're so busy and we're so up in our heads, running from place to place. It's hard to empathize with the kid and be like, "What is his 6-year-old brain thinking right now with no prefrontal cortex when he's screaming like a maniac?" And I want to choke him because I'm like, "I told you once, right?" Then those books help me remind, oh, well, this is why. This is where you gotta reach them at that level. So, yeah. But if just some book, How to Be a Better Parent, no, that's not gonna help.
Okay, got
But
it.
yeah,
got
yeah,
it.
yeah. And these are like good people, like Dr. Dan Siegel. You'd probably like something like that, like a doctor who's like studied it. I mean, he's very good.
If I go that route, I'm gonna ask you for all
Oh,
these books.
you'll be coming back. Um, this is big because you talked about it a lot through the interview, and that is, are there any rituals or practices? I'm huge on this, and I think it's helpful for me. But so, any rituals or hacks or practices that you do daily that are pretty much game changers for you?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it the most. Like I said, when that pastor said, your heart is the most vulnerable at night and in the morning. And I have noticed it with people that I've met in the Bay Area, with friends, with past boyfriends, anything that I've noticed that is that being off. And so they'll do anything to mask being vulnerable during those times. So at night, I cut everything off an hour before bed, make sure I read before bed. I pray before bed. I usually journal before bed. I read the Bible. I have devotionals that come through at 12:30 a.m. every night so that I get those first thing in the morning. So I usually stretch first thing in the morning. I read my affirmations. I do my gratitude list, and then I'll go to that devotional that I have just gotten. So those are really important for me. So again, you can't just be really good at one area of your life, or you can't just, let's say you have a problem with lying. You don't just lie in these situational things. If you lie in one area of your life, you're going to start lying in all these areas.
Yeah.
So everything overflows. I only use that example because it just goes to show we can't compartmentalize things to a certain degree. Your character is your character. So what you believe in, what you practice, what you tell people you do, and what you actually do is so important. So that nighttime and the morning ritual, I write affirmations for patients all the time. If they're at a really low place in their life and I feel like they can't even say something positive about themselves, I'll write it for them. Sometimes I'll share a scripture with patients if I feel like it's appropriate, things like that. I work out only 3 times a week for 30, maybe 4 times a week for 30 minutes. I took my roommate last night. She almost died. I did 2 circuits and she literally almost died. So one of my patients felt my muscle yesterday. She touched me. She's like,
here, let me see.
She's like, you work out.
Oh yeah, that's solid.
So
yeah,
all that to say, more time at the gym, more and more studies are coming out. That is not good. You do not need to spend a lot of time. I tell patients, if you can look at your phone, if you can read a magazine while you're at the gym, you're doing something wrong. You need to really get your heart rate up. When you're there, unless you just want to waste time at the gym and watch a movie while you're on the elliptical, that's cool.
Yeah.
But if your time is really valuable to you, it's really important to get that heart rate up. Challenge the muscles, and to work out for 20 to 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be anything long, but to the point where you kick your own ass, and that's what I do. So I lift pretty heavy weights like twice a week, and the other days I just do high intensity cardio with kettlebells, that kind of thing.
Nice.
So those are really important to me. I go to Napa a lot. I try to get away on the weekends. I'm going to Cuba after I go to Miami for the peptide conference. Travel is really important, so find what you love, and I've earned it though. I mean, I haven't taken a vacation in a long time. Even my boss said, "God, Jillian, what are we gonna do? Are we gone for 2 weeks?" But he said, "You know what? You've worked your ass off." He's like, "You gotta go. You gotta go."
Yeah.
So do whatever kind of fills up your love tank. Do whatever fills up your energy tank. That kind of thing. So people know it works for them, but it's really developing good habits. Good habits are so important.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
If you start slacking in one area, again, you can't compartmentalize. You're gonna slack in all areas. If you want to get something done, ask a busy person to do it.
I like that.
Yeah. So I think that's all I got.
Last but not least, where can people find you?
That's not all I got because I can answer that question. People can find us at San Francisco Natural Medicine. I work in Potrero Hill. It's great because there's ample parking here. We have 9 treatment rooms. I often see several patients at a time, just depending on if you're coming in for a procedure or different things. But yeah, Potrero Hill is great. There's great access if you're from the South Bay, if you're coming from the North. Like I said, ample parking. And right now there's just it's myself and one other practitioner. We'll be bringing in more doctors in the near future. There will be some transition in the near future.
Yeah,
Which
exciting stuff.
Very excited about. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks.
I hope it was insightful for anyone who watches.
Oh, it will be.